All right, welcome back, 7th graders. As we start our new unit, we are going to start talking about a bigger picture, not just the small window of what weather is. We've got to look at the whole atmosphere. And so let's get started. So the atmosphere. First, we've got to talk about how it goes as it goes up. So you may or may not remember density from 6th grade. So density is how much mass an object takes up in a specific volume. So which one would be more dense, a bowling ball or a soccer ball? Well, the bowling ball would, right? It takes up more mass in a specific volume. So in our atmosphere, as we go up, as we get higher and higher and higher, our density is decreasing. It's very important. It's decreasing, which means that it's getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner as it goes up, which we can conclude that most of our mass in the atmosphere is closest here to Earth, all right, which is good, right, because we want the gases, we want some of that stuff, because what do we need? We need oxygen. We need these different gases, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Oh, but before we move on, I do want to ask you this. So what happens when you're climbing up a mountain? Now, you may know this from personal experience, or you may know this from just hearing stories of what happened. But especially people that climb up Mount Everest, right? What do they have to wear? They have to wear oxygen masks because they'll notice that they'll start to get faint. They're not really thinking right, because they're not getting oxygen. So this just goes to show us that as we go up, the air is getting thinner, there's less mass, it's less dense, which causes a lot of problems for us as humans. So talking about the air and gases that are in that air, so what gases are in it? Well, first of all, our air is made up of gas, like I just said, but it's also made up of tiny particles. So that would be like dust, that would be water vapor, stuff that's in our air that isn't gas. Not a ton of it, but there is some. When we look at the gas composition, though, we are going to see that the majority of our atmosphere is made up of what? Nitrogen, right? 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. Wow, that's a big number. All right, the second largest amount is oxygen, which is really good for us, right? Because that's what we need to function. And then that one little percent right there is other gases, including argon, carbon dioxide, and a mixture of just random little things. So what? Why does that matter? Why does it matter to study what different gases make up our atmosphere? Well, because that is what helps sustain life here on Earth. If we didn't have an atmosphere, we didn't have the air that we need, we would not be able to live, nor would plants be able to live. So let's talk about what each one of those gases provides for us. Nitrogen promotes plant growth. Important, right? We want nitrogen to help grow those plants, see them grow. Why? Because they need it and we need it to eat it. Oxygen, obviously for us, we need oxygen to breathe, and later on in the year we're going to talk about how that oxygen is used in our bodies and why we need it. Plants also needed it to perform life processes. And last but not least, carbon dioxide. Who uses that? Plants, right? They need it to make food. So before we start talking about the different levels of the atmosphere, we need to talk about this word, right? I told you it's not going away. Energy. How does energy move through all of that air? So just sit there. What does it do? Well, first it starts with radiation. This is when sunlight warms the ground, okay? So that is those waves, that the heat waves are warming up the ground here on Earth. And then we've got conduction. Conduction explains what happens when it's direct contact. Energy is transferred through direct contact. An example of this is when our warm ground heats up those air particles that are right above it. So how do those air particles shift? Well, they shift due to convection, which is when cool, dense air sinks and warm air goes up. All right? So, have you ever been in a house and been on the second story and it might have been a little bit warmer up there? Why? Because that warm air goes up, that cool air brings down. So let's think about a beach. I want you to think about a beach. You know, it's starting to get fall, which we like, but you know, you can't go wrong with being at the beach. So the sunlight, it radiates down, it hits that sand, warms it up, the air above it gets heated up, and then convection brings that warm air up, brings down the cooler air. Then it's heated again, circulating throughout. Does that make sense? All right, as we get started, we're going to talk about the different layers that make up the atmosphere. All right, keep calm and rock on, Hilburn Hawks.